The galaxy believed Padme Amidala was dead. And for a time, so did Palpatine. But Palpatine didn't build an empire by taking other people's word for things. 3 weeks after the fall of the Republic, an Imperial intelligence probe intercepts a coded medical transmission, buried deep in the Outer Rim, routed through 3 separate relay stations. Most analysts would have dismissed it. Routine noise, background static. Palpatine does not dismiss it. The signal traces back to a small, hidden facility on the moon of Polis Massa, and inside that facility, a life support unit. Still active, still running, keeping someone alive. Someone the galaxy believes is already gone. Palpatine reviews the data alone. No advisors, no witnesses. Just the cold blue light of a holoscreen reflecting in his ruined eyes. And slowly, the thin line of his mouth curves upward. She survived. Not only that, she survived him. Survived Mustafar. Survived Anakin's rage. Survived the very moment the Empire was born. That kind of will, that kind of strength, most emperors would see as a threat. Palpatine sees it as a resource. He calls no troopers. He sends no fleet. Instead, he summons one of his most trusted shadow agents, a specialist in extraction, memory alteration, and dark side conditioning. Someone who has turned rebels into servants before. The order is precise, quiet, absolute. Bring her to me. Alive, unharmed. She is not to be harmed, yet. As the agent departs, Palpatine turns toward the viewport and stares out into the stars. Somewhere out there, Darth Vader is hunting rebel cells, completely unaware that the one person who could break him is about to be placed directly in his hands. And Palpatine intends to use her, like a blade. There are things worse than death in Palpatine's empire. Padme Amidala was about to learn exactly what they were. She woke inside a white room, clean, cold, and completely silent. No windows, no droids, no guards she could reason with or persuade. Just a chair bolted to the floor, and a figure standing in the shadows who smelled of cortosis and something far darker. She tried to speak. She tried to fight. Neither mattered. Palpatine's conditioning program wasn't crude. It wasn't torture. Not in any way the Republic's old laws would have recognized. It was precise. A surgical dismantling of everything that made Padme who she was. Her childhood on Naboo, her years in the Senate, her friendships, her grief, her hope. Most importantly, her love for Anakin Skywalker. Gone. Layer by layer, memory by memory. The process took 11 days. 11 days of dark side techniques woven through Sith-engineered neural conditioning. Each session pushed deeper. Each session left less behind. The woman who had once stood before the Galactic Senate and demanded justice grew quieter, stiller, emptier. On the 12th day, a new identity was placed inside the hollow space where Padme used to live. No name, no history, no attachments. Only purpose, only obedience, only the dark. Palpatine visited her once, just once, before her training began. He studied her eyes for a long moment. Calm, blank, compliant. "Excellent," he said softly. "Now, you are truly ready." What he didn't tell her, what he carefully kept buried beneath layers of conditioning, was exactly who her first assignment would bring her face to face with. Darth Vader had no idea what was coming. Palpatine gave Vader the assignment without explanation. You will train her, personally. She is to become your instrument. Those were the only words. No background, no file, no name. Vader accepted the order the way he accepted most orders, with silence, discipline, and the quiet certainty that the Emperor always had a deeper reason. He wasn't wrong. He just didn't yet understand how deep it went. She arrived at his fortress on Mustafar the following morning, cloaked, composed, moving with the controlled stillness of someone whose fear had been surgically removed. Vader watched her from the upper platform as she entered the training floor below, and something happened that hadn't happened in years. His breath caught. He couldn't explain it. Not logically. Not through the Force. There was nothing in her posture, nothing in her face that should have meant anything to him. She was a stranger. A blank-eyed weapon in dark armor. But somewhere beneath the mask, beneath the respirator and the grief and the rage, something ancient and agonized recognized her. He didn't say a word. He trained her. And she was extraordinary. Fast, precise, and ruthless in the way only someone with nothing left to lose could be. Every drill sharper than the last. Every technique absorbed like she had known combat her entire life. Because in some buried place beneath the conditioning, she had. Vader pushed her harder each day, not to break her, to watch her, to search for any fragment, any flicker of the woman underneath. He found nothing. But one evening, during a sparring session, she paused mid-strike and whispered a single word that had no place in her programming. Anakin. The mask hid his face. Nothing could hide what that word did to him. The rebellion had survived stormtroopers. It had survived Star Destroyers. It had survived Darth Vader himself bearing down on their fleets with full Imperial firepower. It was not prepared for her. She had no designation, no rank in any official Imperial record. The few rebel operatives who caught a glimpse of her in the field simply called her the Shadow, a lone figure in dark cloth who moved through Imperial-occupied worlds like she belonged in every room she entered. Because she did. She knew the rebellion's language, its rhythms, the way its safe houses were disguised as merchant depots and repair stations, the coded phrases its couriers used at checkpoints, the back routes through Coruscant's lower levels that no Imperial map had ever bothered to chart. She knew all of it, without knowing why she knew. In 6 standard weeks, 4 major rebel cells collapsed. 12 safe houses were raided with 0 advance warning. 2 senior Alliance coordinators were captured before they could trigger their emergency protocols. Each strike was clean, quiet, and devastatingly precise. Mon Mothma sat before a damage report that made no tactical sense. "This isn't a leak," she said quietly. "Someone out there knows us. From the inside." She was right, and she was wrong. Because the woman dismantling everything they had built wasn't a spy or a traitor. She was someone who had loved the rebellion more than almost anyone alive. She just no longer remembered that. On Alderaan's outer shipping corridor, a rebel courier was cornered and looked into the operative's eyes, searching for mercy. What he saw instead stopped his voice completely. He knew that face. Everyone in the Alliance was about to know it too. It started small. So small that even Vader didn't fully recognize it at first. A mission order arrives, direct from Palpatine. She is to infiltrate a rebel medical convoy and eliminate everyone aboard. No prisoners, no survivors, no exceptions. Standard Imperial efficiency. Vader reviews the order, then quietly reassigns her to a different operation. He tells himself it's a tactical decision. The convoy mission is too exposed, too risky for an asset of her value. He files a clean report. Palpatine receives it and asks no questions. The convoy survives. Vader doesn't think about why that matters to him. Then it happens again. A second order. She is to be sent to a prison facility on Kessel to extract information using methods that even most Imperial officers requested reassignment to avoid. Vader intercepts the directive, redirects her, files another clean report. Palpatine notices. He says nothing, but he notices. Vader began spending more time reviewing her mission files than his own, watching her debrief recordings late into the night cycles inside his meditation chamber, looking for the word she had said, searching for whatever fragment had surfaced in that training room and then gone dark again. He told himself he was studying the conditioning, looking for weaknesses in the Emperor's program. He was lying to himself. Because the truth he could feel pressing against the inside of his chest like something alive, was far simpler and far more dangerous. He couldn't let Palpatine destroy what was left of her. Not again. In his meditation chamber, alone in the dark, Darth Vader made a decision that had no place in the Sith code. He was going to protect her. And Palpatine had already begun to suspect exactly that. It began with a lake. She was reviewing tactical maps in her quarters aboard an Imperial frigate when the image surfaced without warning. Still water, green hills, soft golden light falling across a stone veranda somewhere warm and impossibly quiet. She didn't know where it came from. It wasn't in any file. It wasn't a mission briefing. It had no tactical value whatsoever. But it felt real. More real than anything she could name. She pushed it aside, filed it as neural interference, returned to her maps. It came back 3 hours later, then again the following morning, each time slightly sharper, each time pulling with it something that felt dangerously close to feeling. A laugh she almost recognized, hands she couldn't quite see, a name, her name, spoken in a voice that made something deep in her chest respond before her mind could stop it. The programming pushed back hard. Headaches, disorientation, 2 nights where she couldn't complete a basic mission debrief without losing her train of thought entirely. Her handlers reported minor cognitive irregularities, recommended a recalibration session. She requested a postponement. That was the first decision she made entirely on her own. On the 3rd day, she found herself standing in front of a reflective panel, just staring at her own face for a very long time. Like she was searching for someone she almost remembered being. Then she did something no conditioned Imperial operative was ever supposed to do. She started asking questions. Not out loud, not to anyone who could report her, but quietly, in the private space behind her eyes where the conditioning couldn't quite reach. Who was I before this? And somewhere in the dark, a memory she was never supposed to keep answered back. Her next mission would take her directly to Darth Vader, and neither of them would walk away unchanged. Vader didn't plan it. That was the part that would have surprised anyone who knew him. Darth Vader, the most calculated, disciplined, and coldly strategic enforcer in the Empire, didn't plan the moment he finally broke. It happened on Coruscant, in a secured Imperial debriefing corridor 2 levels below the Emperor's own intelligence wing. She had been called in for recalibration. The handlers had flagged her cognitive irregularities. Palpatine had personally authorized a full reconditioning, something far deeper and far more permanent than what had been done before. Whatever fragments had begun surfacing inside her were about to be burned away for good. Vader was not supposed to be there. He walked in anyway. He crossed the floor in 12 steps, disabled both handlers before either could reach a comlink, shattered the conditioning equipment against the far wall with a single force push. Then, he crouched in front of her chair, the great black armor folding down to her eye level, and said the only thing he could think of that might reach whatever was left of her. He said her name. Not the designation Palpatine had given her, not the call sign from her mission files. Her name. Padme. She stared at him. Something moved behind her eyes, slow and enormous, like a tide shifting deep underwater. He didn't wait for Palpatine's response. He pulled her out of that chair, moved through 4 security checkpoints using override codes he had memorized years ago for exactly the kind of emergency he'd told himself would never come, and disappeared into the lower levels of Coruscant before the first alarm finished sounding. Within the hour, every Imperial frequency carried the same priority signal. 2 fugitives, armed, extremely dangerous. The Emperor's perfect punishment had just become his greatest threat. Palpatine made one mistake, just one. But in the end, one was enough. He had calculated everything perfectly. The conditioning, the assignment, the slow, deliberate cruelty of placing the woman Vader loved directly in his hands. Hollow, obedient, and unrecognizable. He had expected it to destroy his apprentice quietly, to hollow him out the same way grief had hollowed him after Mustafar, to leave behind something even more broken, even more obedient, even more useful. He did not calculate for love being stronger than Sith engineering. He did not calculate for Vader choosing her over everything. In the weeks that followed their escape, something extraordinary began happening across the galaxy. 2 fugitives, one a ghost the rebellion believed long dead, one the Empire's most feared enforcer, began dismantling Imperial infrastructure from the inside out. Safe houses that Vader himself had built, code clearances only he possessed, strategic blind spots in Imperial defense grids that no rebel general had ever been able to find. Vader knew where every body was buried, because he had buried most of them himself. And Padme, with each passing day, each recovered fragment, each returning memory, remembered exactly who she had been before Palpatine took it all away. She remembered the Senate, the rebellion, the people worth fighting for. She remembered herself. Mon Mothma received an encrypted transmission on a frequency so secure it had never been used. 2 words and a set of coordinates. "We're ready." On Coruscant, Palpatine sat in silence for a long time after his advisors delivered their reports. Star destroyers reassigned, garrisons going dark, intelligence networks crumbling faster than they could be rebuilt. He had built the perfect weapon. He had simply aimed it at the wrong person. The Emperor had given Vader a reason to burn the Empire down, and Vader had never needed much of a reason at all.